What kind of man bolts his cabin door not to keep danger out, but to keep a stranger safe inside? The dust storm had been growing since noon, turning the Colorado sky into a curtain of red. Margaret Whitmore pushed herself against the side of an old wagon, trying to shield her face as the wind cut across the open land like sharp glass. Her dress was torn, her shoes full of dirt, and she had nothing left in her pockets. She had run from Boston with hope and a few coins, and both were almost gone. 3 days without a real meal had left her weak. Every step toward Dust Creek felt impossible, yet she pushed on because the life behind her was far worse. Back east, her father had promised her to Cornelius Ashford, a man old enough to be her grandfather. He bought her hand like a rancher buys cattle. Her father's debts became her burden, and she became the price to pay. The wind screamed around her. She needed shelter soon, or she would not survive through nightfall. When she lifted her head, she saw a single light flickering through the storm. It was not a town, not more than one home, a ranch house, maybe. A chance. She wrapped her arms around herself and walked toward it. Inside the ranch house, Elias Carter stood at his window. At 32, he ran more cattle than most men in Colorado. But none of it brought him peace. Not after his wife Sarah died 5 years ago. The house was too quiet, his life too empty. And trust was something he no longer allowed himself. He watched the red storm rolling across his land. He almost turned away when a shape moved through the dust. Someone was out there. No one traveled in weather like this unless they were desperate or dangerous. He reached up for the rifle above his fireplace. But then the figure stumbled, fell, tried to get up, fell again. A woman. His jaw tightened. Trouble always came wearing soft shoes. A pounding hit his door. Her voice shook through the storm. "Please, someone, please help me." His past told him to stay still. His good sense told him to wait. But something in that voice cut through the walls he kept around his heart. He pulled the door open, fighting the roaring wind. The woman fell inside, coughing, shaking, hair full of dust. She was young, maybe 20. Her dress was torn, her eyes wide with fear and exhaustion. "Thank the Lord," she gasped. "I thought I would die out there." Elias bolted the door behind her, sliding the iron lock into place. The sound echoed in the quiet cabin. It felt final, heavy. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice deeper than he meant. "And why are you out in this storm?" She tried to sit up, holding the wall for balance. Despite her ruined dress and messy hair, her posture showed she had been raised proper. She looked lost, but not wild. Broken, but not dangerous. "My name is Margaret Whitmore," she whispered. "I was trying to reach Dust Creek when the storm caught me. Please, I only need shelter until it passes." He didn't answer right away. He studied her torn Boston wool dress, her trembling hands. The way she tried to keep some dignity even now. She was running from something. He knew that look. He had worn it once himself. "You're miles from town," he said. "Storm like this might last all night." Quote, "I thought I was closer," she said softly. She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. Elias caught her before she hit the floor. Her body was cold, lighter than he expected. He steadied her and pointed to the chair near the fire. "Sit before you fall again," he said. "I'm not sending anyone back into that storm." He disappeared into the back room and returned with a warm blanket and a cup of water. She took them with grateful hands. "When's the last time you ate?" he asked. "Yesterday morning." Elias moved to the stove without another word and ladled stew into a bowl. When he set it in front of her, she had to fight not to devour it too quickly. "Slow," he warned, "or you'll make yourself sick." She nodded, taking smaller bites. Up close, she could see him better. Broad shoulders, sharp jaw, hands worn from years of hard work. A man carved by the land he lived on. A man who carried grief like an extra shadow. "You running from something?" he asked suddenly. She froze. The spoon paused halfway to her lips. She could lie. She could invent a story, but something in his steady stare forced the truth out. "Yes." "The law?" "No, my family." She looked down, voice breaking. "My father sold me." to pay his debts, to a man older than him. Elias's jaw tightened. He had seen the world at its worst, but something about her quiet pain struck deeper than he expected. How old's the man? 63. And you? 20. The fire cracked between them. Her eyes lifted, searching his face for judgment, but found none. You got people expecting you in Dust Creek? He asked. No. He thought for a long moment. The storm battered the walls. The wind roared, but inside the cabin, something softer began to move. You can stay the night, he said finally. Room upstairs. Third door on the right. Lock it from inside if you need. In the morning, we'll figure out what to do with you. Tears filled her eyes. Thank you, Mr. Carter. It's Elias, he said gruffly. She gathered the blanket around her shoulders and stood. She took a few steps toward the stairs, then turned back. I won't be any trouble, quote. He looked at her for a long beat. Something unspoken passed between them. See that you aren't, he murmured. Margaret went upstairs, locking the bedroom door behind her. She sank into the bed, feeling safe for the first time in weeks. Downstairs, Elias stood at the window, watching the storm. He had bolted the door to protect his home, but somehow he felt like he had locked something unexpected inside with him. A change, a danger, or maybe a second chance. He didn't know which frightened him more. What danger waits in the quiet of a ranch house when the storm outside is past, but the storm inside a man's heart is just beginning? Morning light crept across the Colorado hills like gold spilled over the land. Margaret woke with a start, unsure for a moment where she was. Then she saw the small, tidy room, the warm blanket, and remembered the man who had opened his door to her when the storm tried to kill her. Elias Carter. She washed her face, smoothed her torn dress, and went downstairs. The cabin felt different in daylight. Strong wooden beams, clean floors, the smell of coffee filling the kitchen, and the man standing by the stove looked different too. Bigger, sterner, but somehow gentler than he'd seemed the night before. Coffee's hot, he said, his back still turned to her. Breakfast will be ready soon. She poured herself a cup. The coffee was strong enough to wake the dead. When she sat, he finally turned to face her. In the morning light, she could see more. A scar near his eyebrow, the tight line of his jaw, the years of work carved into his hands. About last night, she began. The storm's past, he said. Now we need to figure out what happens next. He set a plate of eggs and biscuits in front of her. She forced herself to eat slowly, even though her stomach ached with hunger. I can work, she said quietly. I don't expect charity. I can cook, clean, help with animals. I managed my father's household. I don't want to be a burden. Elias leaned against the counter, arms crossed, studying her again like he was trying to decide what kind of person she was. Dust Creek ain't kind to women who arrive alone, he said. Especially ones with no friends. Sheriff Tom asks questions nobody wants to answer. She looked down, her hope dimmed. Then I'll go somewhere else, another town. He shook his head. Next settlement's 4 days ride through Apache territory. You wouldn't make it 2. Her breath caught. She hadn't known that. The world was much larger and much harsher than the life she'd left behind. So what do you suggest? She asked. He hesitated. A long, heavy silence settled between them. Finally he said, Maybe I need help on the ranch. Her heart lifted, just a little. My cook left last month, he continued. Got married, moved to Denver. I've been making do, but it'd be easier with someone here who knows how to run a kitchen. I can do that, she said at once. I promise I can. This ain't Boston life, he warned. It's hard work, up before dawn, done after dark, cooking for ranch hands, cleaning, feeding animals. I can work hard, she insisted, and, his voice lowered, serious now, you'd have to stay on the ranch. People talk. A single woman living under a man's roof ain't something the town lets go quiet. She swallowed. She understood what he meant. Reputation, gossip, risk. I don't care what people say, she whispered. I just need a chance. He pushed away from the counter. Pays $15 a month, room, food, and protection included. "You cause no trouble. I keep you safe from trouble." Her voice shook as she said, "That's more than I hoped for." "You'll live in the cook's room," he said. "It's separate from the main house. Lets folks know you're hired help, not—" He stopped himself, jaw tightening. "Not anything else." She nodded. A new life. A clean start. A place where she wasn't someone's price to pay. He showed her the small room off the kitchen. It had a bed, a dresser, and a door to the outside. She touched the handle gently. "Thank you," she said again. "Don't thank me yet," he replied. "You haven't met the ranch hands." By noon, she was elbow-deep in soap suds, cleaning the kitchen she now claimed as her own. She organized shelves, washed pots, and warmed stew on the stove. For the first time in weeks, she felt purpose instead of fear. But horse hooves thundered outside, and the peace shattered. 3 men approached the kitchen door, dust-covered, armed, rough-faced, the kind of men who lived on the edge of trouble. One knocked sharply. "You the new cook?" he asked through the window. "Yes," she answered. "Maggie Wilson." The false name came easier now, the man smirked. "Boss mentioned he might hire someone. Name's Jake Morrison." Morrison, her heart jumped. Elias had mentioned that name. His old partner. The man who betrayed him. Jake studied her like he could see straight through her. "Tell Carter we came by," he said. "We need to talk Henderson boundary trouble." They rode off, but she saw one of them glance back at her too long, too sharp. When Elias returned, he noticed her shaken look before she could hide it. "Someone come by?" he asked. "Yes, Jake Morrison and 2 others." Elias stiffened. "Did they give you trouble?" "No, but he looked at me like he was trying to figure out something." Elias strode to the window, jaw clenched. "Morrison's trouble," he muttered. "More now than before." He tasted her stew then, and his expression softened slightly. "This is good," he admitted. "Better than what I've been eating." She smiled faintly. "Secret is the herbs in your garden." The warmth between them lasted only a moment before fear returned. "Is this boundary dispute serious?" she asked. "Everything here is serious," he said. "Hendersons claim my water rights reach onto their land. They're wrong. But they've got Sheriff Tom whispering in their ear." She felt her chest tighten. "Do you think it's connected to me being here?" "Maybe," he said honestly. Or maybe Jake just likes stirring trouble. That night, she lay in her narrow bed listening to the ranch creak in the wind. Through the window, she could see Elias walking his land, checking shadows, standing guard. He wasn't just protecting his ranch, he was protecting her. Even if he didn't want to admit it. What happens when a runaway woman discovers she is no longer running alone, and a hardened cowboy realizes the one person he swore not to trust becomes the only one he can't live without? 2 weeks passed. The ranch moved in a steady rhythm, each day filled with work and quiet moments that slowly tied Margaret's life to the Double C Ranch. She cooked for the hands at dawn, scrubbed the kitchen after breakfast, and helped Elias with small tasks before supper. The men respected her, some shy, some loud, all grateful for warm meals and a tidy home. But danger waited beyond the fence line. It came one bright morning in the form of 3 riders. Sheriff Tom Bradley led them, with Abigail Moore at his side dressed in an expensive green gown that looked out of place on dusty ranch land. Elias returned from the fields just as Margaret faced them outside the house. "Morning," the sheriff called. "Came to meet the new cook." Margaret kept her hands steady on the laundry she was hanging. "Maggie Wilson," she said calmly. "From St. Louis." Tom's eyes narrowed. "Funny, can't recall any Wilsons from St. Louis losing folks to fever. Sent a telegram, got no such record." Margaret held her ground. "St. Louis is a large city. You don't know everyone." Abigail's smile was sharp. "How very convenient. You simply appeared out of thin air, needing work, and Elias just happened to take you in." Margaret said nothing, but her chin lifted. She wouldn't bow to a woman who looked at Elias as if he were property too. Elias approached then, placing himself between them. "You're done here," he said to the sheriff. She's my employee. You want to ask questions, you ask them in my presence. Abigail leaned closer to Elias. You're blinded by her, a woman with no past, no connections. Do you even know who she really is? Quote. Elias stepped back from her touch. I know what I need to. The tension hung heavy. Sheriff Tom mounted his horse. We'll be back, he warned, and next time we'll expect real answers. After they rode off, Elias turned to Margaret. Tom's digging, he said, trying to find anything he can use. And Abigail, she's stirring trouble just to cause pain. I'm sorry, Margaret whispered. I didn't mean... Stop! Elias's voice softened. You didn't ask for any of this. He stepped closer. Too close. Close enough that she could feel the heat from his chest. You're not leaving this ranch, he said softly, not while danger circles. The danger came faster than either expected. At dusk, a rider galloped into the yard, shouting for Elias. Henderson's been shot, the man cried. Sheriff Tom's saying, it was your man! He's forming a posse! Coming here tonight! Margaret's breath caught. Before fear could take her, Elias turned to her with command in his voice. Get inside, he said. Load every gun in the house. Elias. Do it. She obeyed. Soon the ranch was surrounded by armed men, posse riders with torches and guns. Elias and his ranch hands formed a line on the porch. Margaret watched through a crack in the door, heart hammering. Sheriff Tom shouted from his horse, Carter! We're here for your men, and for that woman who's been lying about her identity. Quote. Margaret felt sick. Elias turned sharp as a blade. You want her? He shouted. You come through me. A gasp went through the posse. Margaret stepped outside before she could stop herself. Sheriff, she said, voice trembling but steady, I will answer your questions, but not alone. Tom glared. Your name isn't Maggie Wilson. No, she admitted. It's Margaret Whitmore. I ran from a forced marriage back east. A man 3 times my age. The posse murmured. Men with daughters looked suddenly uneasy. Tom pressed. Running from marriage is still running from the law. A marriage bought with money is not a marriage, she answered softly. Elias stepped beside her. You heard her truth. Now leave. But someone else had a different plan. A gunshot cracked the night. Not from Elias. Not from his men. It came from the Henderson group, and chaos erupted. Elias reacted first, grabbing Margaret's waist and yanking her behind him. His arm tightened around her, holding her against his chest as bullets shattered the quiet. But by some miracle, the shot had been fired into the air. Margaret tore free, raised her Winchester, and fired once skyward. Everyone froze. She stepped forward. Before anyone dies tonight, you should know something. All eyes turned to her. Mrs. Abigail Moore paid a man to shoot Henderson's brother. I heard her speaking to someone in town. A lie, but one built on truth, Abigail gasped. That girl is lying. But panic flashed across her face. Elias saw it. So did the posse. Henderson's men exchanged looks. Tom shifted in his saddle. Abigail, that true? Abigail's mask cracked. I only wanted. It was enough. Henderson's brother's eyewitness description matched the man Abigail had hired, and suddenly the entire crowd turned on her. Tom barked orders. Abigail Moore, you're coming with me. She tried to claw her way free, glaring at Margaret. You'll pay for this, she hissed as she was dragged away. Your past will catch you. Margaret didn't flinch. Maybe, but not tonight. The posse disbanded. The danger faded. And Elias's men holstered their weapons. Silence settled. Elias turned to Margaret, breathing hard. You could have been killed. So could you. He stepped closer. Close enough that his chest brushed hers. Close enough that his hand found her waist again. This time, not out of fear, but out of something deeper. You saved my life, he whispered. And my ranch. She swallowed. We saved each other. His forehead leaned against hers. His hand tightened at her waist. Margaret, he said softly, there's something I need to tell you. She looked up at him. I choose you, he said, not out of duty, not out of fear, but because my life feels alive again when you're near. Her breath caught. I choose you, Elias. He kissed her, a kiss full of weeks of quiet looks, stolen breaths. and nights where neither slept because they were thinking of the other. A kiss that sealed every unspoken promise. When they finally broke apart, he whispered against her lips, "This ranch is your home now." She smiled softly, "And you're my forever."